Okay, we're live. Wow. Welcome to the Ben and Lauren Show. If you've noticed now, the picture quality is quite a bit improved. I can see every little pimple on my skin and...
Do you have pimples?
Maybe. I can see every little hair on my chin.
Are you Ben?
Yes, I'm Ben. I'm Ben. This is Lauren. Welcome to the Ben and Lauren Show, now with an iPad. How cool is that?
That is pretty neat. A lot easier to hold.
And Abigail says peekaboo. We need a big mirror so you can see the iPad that we're using.
It's a brand new gift that arrived in the mail this week. Ben bought it, and I had no idea it was coming, so he hands me this box like, here, why don't you open this up? And
I'm always looking for good deals.
iPad?
And I found a good deal on an iPad. And I said, all right, let's get an iPad. Now we can do the Ben and Lauren Show in style.
We had a little iPad mini for maybe 4 years, 5 years. Yeah, our little iPad mini, it has been obsoleted out.
Years.
And you can see all the fingerprints on the case.
Dirty.
This is why we have our iPad in a life box, because we let our children play games on it occasionally, and little children are surprisingly messy.
See, it looks so high-tech and nice, but it has gotten really slow.
It doesn't do very well for a lot of things right now.
It is planned obsolescence. Obsolescence?
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 Is that a word?
I don't know.
Is that a new word?
I don't know.
Anyway, so now we have a new iPad. Now you have to get used to using it.
iPad.
You're right. iPad, iPod, same difference. I'm going to do a little adjustment here, though, because we have it in a new case, and it has a little stand, and hey, there you go.
Now you don't have to hold on to it anymore.
Right, now it won't wobble.
All right.
So that was one thing we did this week.
So we're still working out the technical aspects. I don't know how the audio is. The mic's over on this side, so you could probably hear me more than Lauren, but...
Okay, probably. What else did we do this week?
Well, let's see. We got the new iPad. You did kind of a financial wrap-up for our family.
Yep. I got all the checkbook is all reconciled. We've got all the statements all printed and ready to do the taxes, and I usually do this in December.
See, I make the money and spend the money. She keeps track of the money.
So it felt weird to wrap everything up to do the 2018 taxes, because we didn't do the 2017 taxes until this summer. We had to do a deferment because we didn't have all Daniel's information. So it feels like I just did this. It was only just like 5 months ago. So now everything is wrapped up, and you did a lot of wrapping up too this week.
Yeah. So I did some business reconciling, got everything all straightened up, getting ready for the end of the year. And that's the biggest thing we noticed is now it is almost the end of the year. It is almost 2019.
If we do a podcast next week, it will be the last one of 2018.
Amazing.
Seems like it just got here.
Well, my birthday, mine and Abigail's birthday, is next month. If you move over a little bit. Next month.
Yep.
And we were just remembering, it wasn't that long ago when we were celebrating our birthday with the people we meet with on Saturday. And when we brought that up, was it Charlene? She looked at me and said, "Are you kidding me? That's been a year?" And yes, it's been a year. Time flies, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, because at your birthday last year, Daniel was pretty much a newborn. Now he's walking all over the house and trying to talk.
So last year was not the chair. Last year, what was last year? It's always kind of a...
I forget what we got you last year.
I remember a bathrobe 1 year, chair 1 year. That's all I can remember. I know what I'm getting this year. I'm not going to say it.
Well, yeah. So,
like I said, I'm the one who...
We're wrapping up 2018, and you're going to have to wait to see your 2019 birthday present.
Counting the days down.
What else happened this week? Oh, Abigail, our oldest, is reading out of books this week. I've been working with her on
pulling up a chair.
Her phonics, and I've been working on her sounding out words, and this week we actually got a book out of the bookcase, and we started reading it. And she has a lot of, little rules to work out about how the written language works, but she's getting there. And tonight I noticed that we picked up a book and we started reading it. We got through several pages tonight. And they're the easy reader ones still, but
she wants to learn to read.
She does, and she's our first reader, and I think every homeschool mom has this bit of trepidation when it comes to you first teaching them how to read. Am I going to be able to get this done?
You will.
I think I better go take care of
we just heard
catastrophe.
we
I hear
just
a
heard
thump in the bedroom.
we just heard a thump and a cry. So that is somebody. So I guess it's the Ben Show for a moment. Let's see. How can I improvise? I know. Let's talk about what we're drinking tonight. Tonight we've got the turmeric hot chocolate going. I don't know if you can see it. I just poured it all over the. Well then, yeah, that's what I did tonight. Yep, I poured it right over the notebook. Yeah, leave it to me pouring my drink on the notebook. Anyway, I'm gonna drink some. All right, so what other interesting things? Let's talk about parts. If you saw my Steam It post, I was talking a little bit about the parts that Lauren were coding. We talked about last Ben and Lauren show. And you can see how they turned out. They turned out really nice, I think. We had some concerns about the little bit of streakiness and unevenness. Uh-oh, I think I've got my little daughter showing up here. Want to make a little appearance, Abigail? Now it's the Ben and Abigail show! Welcome to the Ben and Abigail show. I'm Ben.
What?
This is Abigail.
What is that?
I poured my turmeric hot chocolate on the... I should probably clean it up. I would talk about our little stack of stuff, but I like to do it with Lauren present. I guess maybe we can do it with Abigail present. Anything interesting, Abigail? What did you do this week, Abigail? Everyone's watching.
I read a sentence on the book.
You read a sentence on the book.
Yeah.
Well, good job. Anything else? Did you learn anything from the Torah portion?
I was listening to Bible in the bedroom.
Yeah, what's the Bible talking about right now?
Right now it's talking about the first beginnings. It started off from the first beginning, then I don't know what it was talking about a lot.
Is it talking about Genesis starts with in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth?
Yeah.
What happens after that? 6 days of creation and then what?
Yep. Then that.
If you can grab a towel, that would probably be good.
Towel? Did you spill some hot chocolate?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Abigail wanted to join the Ben and Lauren show, so it's the Ben and Lauren and Abigail show. Yeah,
It's our stack of stuff.
my stack of stuff. I was trying to show everyone our turmeric hot chocolate, and I somehow poured it right on the notebook.
Well,
And turmeric turns everything yellow, I see.
I don't know how Elena's gonna do. She apparently had a bad dream.
Oh.
She was in the bedroom, standing in the corner of the bedroom, crying at the wall.
So Abigail came out and made an appearance. Say hi, Abigail.
That was a very interrupted show then.
That's okay. She was talking about what the Bible was playing when we
She
came
said Lot.
in. Lot.
Who's talking about Lot?
So you went all the way from in the beginning to Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah,
You
right?
probably should go get yourself back in bed.
Yeah.
Good night, Abby.
Good night, Abigail.
Good night.
I couldn't get Elena's thunderstorm noises started again, so that's why I'm not sure she's gonna stay in bed.
Well,
Oh well.
we'll finish the Ben and Lauren show anyway.
So you talked about our parts?
Yeah, I was talking about the parts. Here's what it looks like. It looks really good when you get the gloss just right. You can see all the reflection.
Well, the problem was I had trouble getting an even coat, and some of the parts did not cure glossy like that, and I tried recoating them, and they still did not cure glossy.
I picked the nicest looking piece I could find, and this is probably it.
I'm not thrilled with how they came out, but they're going to do the job they're supposed to, meaning I would have liked them to be prettier.
So this is not the actual anchor dog. This is just a piece that goes along with it. How many of these? Like 24 of these that we painted?
Felt like an endless stack after I coated them 3 times.
Yeah, coating those 3, was it 3 times?
In the end, yeah, it ended up 3 times.
Wow.
It was a lot. I was up late a couple nights doing those.
So I wanted to talk about our other item that we got recently. Interested in learning how to make some wine, since people seem to do that a lot. Aha! This is everything you need to make wine.
Wow.
Well, this is the start of what you need to make wine.
We got a bunch of...
Basically, I know nothing about making wine. This is going to be a completely new venture for me, but I'm going to follow the instructions as best I can. got some yeast packets. This is for the red wines.
We actually had a variety of yeast packets. You got a couple of different ones.
We got some champagne yeast coming also, so that's going to be next on our list. So we'll kind of keep everyone posted how it turns out. I'm hoping to just very carefully follow the instructions and have it turn out not terrible.
We did try making wine once before. We tried making dandelion wine
It didn't
because we
turn
had
out.
so many dandelions in the yard one spring. But we kind of decided to do it at the last minute. We did not have the correct brewer's yeast, and we did not have any of the correct equipment, and it basically just grew mold. We didn't do it right.
Having the right kind of yeast, having the right kind of bottle, I think will, and actually putting the right ingredients together, I think will result in some decent wine.
Yeah, we decided to maybe take it a little slower this time, collect the equipment, collect the ingredients, collect the advice.
Well, when we made dandelion wine, we really just kind of jumped in and
Got one recipe and threw the ingredients in a pot and got going.
basically our yard was infested with dandelions, and so we picked a bunch of dandelions, and I said, let's do something with these.
You did your usual. We've got all these things. There's got to be something.
Got to be something we could do with it. So we tried to make dandelion wine. It did not turn out.
Maybe we'll try that again.
That was many years ago now. That was probably, 2012?
It was before Abigail was born.
Yeah.
So
11 or 12 or something like
it
that.
would have been 12.
So yeah, we're talking, 6 years ago? 6 or 7
Yeah.
years ago. So this is our next foray into it. We're going to be a little more careful and hopefully do a better job.
Hopefully.
What else? Oh, the political week. We've been watching the news.
It was like, I think it's Ben Shapiro who's been calling it the Trump show. Like this is season 2018 of the Trump show, and he says this episode of the Trump show really left everyone on a cliffhanger. We've got Jim Mattis resigning, and I like the way he's been doing that.
Last week on the Trump show,
Right.
Jim Mattis resigns.
Exactly. We got quite a teaser trailer for next week. We've got all the troops coming home. So we watched
On
this.
today's episode, Trump brings all the troops home from Afghanistan.
Well, we're watching this, and there's a bunch of stuff that started happening that didn't make a lot of sense and is disquieting to us.
So basically, we're thinking this is a good week to get ready to prep, because we don't know what's coming up in the future. Why is Trump bringing all the troops home all of a
It's too
sudden?
late to prep if you're prepping this week.
Hopefully you've been prepping for the last couple weeks.
Oh, we've been looking at the situation, and we've been saying pulling the troops home is really the oddball thing, because that upsets everybody who's friends with Trump, meaning it upsets people in Congress who he's friendly with. I mean, to the point where the Secretary of Defense was saying, please don't. And he went back in there and basically begged Trump not to bring the troops home from Syria. And when Trump refused, that's when he resigned. This is very strange behavior.
Well, we learned a little bit about Mattis that at least I didn't know before. Basically, he says that he feels that he's out of the loop, Jim Mattis, and does not share the same worldview as Donald Trump, and he feels that Donald Trump should have a different Secretary of Defense that shares his worldview.
Well, that was a slap in the face. I mean, that was him basically saying something like,
You're wrong.
don't mess with me.
Well, we found out that he did not approve of the United States getting out of the Iran deal.
He's very into building coalitions with people.
He was all for the Iran deal. I did not know that. He was also against the idea of moving the embassy to Jerusalem.
He thought that was a bad idea, that it would inflame tensions in the Middle East. So he's very much about coalition building.
So the fact that Donald Trump did both these things, I think was pretty upsetting. He did both these things without consulting him.
He was also, I think, pretty close friends with General Kelly, who was the chief of staff who just resigned.
Yep.
But from what we understand, pulling the troops out was the last straw. And for us, we're looking at this, and in some ways it makes sense with what Donald Trump likes to do. In other ways, it really doesn't jive with his behavior in the past. We also saw a video of him at the G8 summit.
Oh, yeah.
Looking uncharacteristically uncomfortable.
Very, very nervous.
His body language was very odd for him.
And Trump's usually Mr. Boisterous.
He's usually very
hands-on,
easygoing, yeah.
Alpha male in the room.
So we looked at his behavior, and we looked at the pulling the troops home, and we said, we wonder if something is thought to be going to happen here, like what's happening in Paris. If something is going to happen to precipitate protests in our country.
We're talking yellow vest kind of, stuff in the
And
chaos in the streets, that sort of thing.
the thing about what's happening in France is if you put yourself in the position of an average, middle class family like we are, with small children, if you're living in Paris right now, you don't go to the grocery store.
No.
You stay at home and you try to just ride things out. Now, are we in an area that's a hotbed for a protest?
Maybe.
Well, I don't know.
Who knows? We might.
But we watched the troops being pulled home and we said, I think we're going to make sure we do our grocery shopping before Christmas, just in case something oddball is about to happen this week.
We haven't really been bringing it up with a lot of people because we're not into alarming people and getting them. And plus, we may be totally wrong.
We also don't tend to jump at this kind of stuff either. I mean, if there's a snowstorm predicted, we don't go to the store and buy bread and milk. That's not our kind of behavior.
But we've kind of been wondering if something like this would be coming at some point. So who knows? What we're hearing is perhaps sometime after the 25th, maybe on the 26th, which we're actually delivering the parts on the 26th. So we're going to be
I hope nothing serious is happening.
driving across the country that day,
We're
or
on the
the
road
state.
that day.
So hopefully all is well. But, my experience is usually things continue on as normal.
And the stock market also
Took a big
took
dip.
a huge dip this week, and the Federal Reserve decided to raise interest rates. It was a crazy week, and it sounds like Donald Trump got his funding through
For the wall.
the House for the wall. If it went through
Right.
the House, it's going to go through the Senate
Right.
because it will.
Right, and it just sort of appeared out of nowhere. So some kind of dealing and wheeling and dealing is happening.
And weird stuff happens over Christmas a lot.
Weird stuff happens because people are distracted. They're too busy getting their toys and buying gifts and
Right.
visiting family, and people are not paying attention to politics. And this is when the crazy stuff happens. So we've been kind of trying to keep an eye on it.
Not that we really can. What
we
want
to be in the know.
Yeah.
If we were in 1913, we would know about the Federal Reserve being formed right about this time. Maybe. Well, they didn't have the internet back then, so maybe
I
not.
highly doubt we would have known a thing. We would have been hunkering down around our stove and saying, it's cold outside.
We would have been just dealing with our own business, not paying attention to worldly
Right.
things like that.
Teaching our kids to read.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's
been our week.
That's our commentary on what's going on in the
It's
political
very
world.
exciting. The Trump show is definitely exciting to watch.
But not as exciting as the Ben and Lauren show. I mean, I dumped turmeric hot chocolate all over our...
Well, I sort of left you in the lurch when I went up to the... Elena really was standing in the corner of our bedroom crying.
Yeah, I was improvising. What's the word, improvising? Improv. I was doing improv.
Okay, so...
the Torah portion for this week.
You had a really interesting thought about it this week.
I always have an interesting thought. Whether it's a good thought or not, I don't know. But well, where we are in the Torah portion is Jacob's household coming down into Egypt and immigrating into Egypt. And when Pharaoh invited them down, he basically sent the message, just come down, leave all your stuff back home, don't bring your flocks, don't bring your anything, just come down, we'll take care of you. We'll give you homes, we'll give you money, we'll give you land, we'll give you everything you need. Just come down. Well, they came down, but they brought all of their flocks and herds and all of their material wealth and everything. They basically transplanted themselves from Canaan right down into Goshen. And
like good thrifty homesteaders.
Right. I mean, if you're going to move somewhere, you bring your stuff with you.
You take your bulldozer, you don't leave it home.
Right. So they were given land in the land of Goshen. They brought all their flocks and herds. Now, we know from the text that the Egyptians do not like shepherds. They don't like sheep herders at all.
We actually know that from history, too.
They're actually an abomination to the Egyptians. They won't eat with the Hebrews. It's because they worship these animals.
Yeah, we're not totally sure why Pharaoh had flocks and herds, though. I noticed that Charlene brought that up at Bible study today. Well, what was Pharaoh doing with with flocks and herds if this was such an abomination? It could have been a caste system thing.
Perhaps.
We don't really know.
But it's interesting later on we find out that during the famine, the Egyptians had to basically make themselves slaves to the Egyptian Pharaoh. And they gave up themselves and they gave up their land for food.
They did. They became serfs.
They became serfs, and they no longer owned their own land. Pharaoh owned the land, He consolidated all the power in Egypt. But interestingly enough, the Hebrews kept their land. They were landowners.
Yeah, it says they acquired land.
Yep. So that means that while all the Egyptians had to work the land and pay 1/5 of all of their grain to Pharaoh, the Hebrews got to keep everything for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So here they are with their own land, with their own culture. They're not assimilating in with the Egyptians at all. They are keeping 100% of their grain for themselves. Tax free. And they are multiplying. Mm. And that's basically where our Torah portion ends, is the end of Genesis and the beginning of Exodus, when a new Pharaoh, I think it's actually a new Pharaoh and a new Pharaoh after that, it was a new Pharaoh who did not remember Joseph, saw the Hebrews as a threat.
And as you read the end of Genesis, you understand why. But what was interesting to me is that that's the pattern of the Hebrews through history.
It is.
When they get displaced from their land.
Yep.
They end up creating their own little enclave somewhere because they're joined together by their religion, which does not admit anything else. They cannot keep their religion and their God and mix it with any other one. So they have to end up staying separate. Their dietary laws alone keep them separate. And then they form these little enclaves, and they tend to do well. They own land, or they become bankers.
They become wealthy.
Even in poor areas like in Russia, where they were living off in the shtetls, they were still their own autonomous group, and people end up disliking them and fearing them and trying to enslave them or kick them out or do stuff to them.
So they didn't assimilate into Egyptian culture. I mean, Pharaoh's idea was, Jacob, bring your family down, 70 people, meld in with us, become Egyptians like us, this great society, and they didn't. They had their own land, they had their own culture, they had their own God, singular, and the Egyptians eventually, after a while, wouldn't have anything to do with that anymore.
Well, and you brought that up. I had never noticed where Pharaoh says, don't worry about your property because all the land of Egypt will be yours. He's really just inviting them to come and blend in. Mm-hmm. And I mean, telling someone to leave behind their property because all we have, okay, it sounds really generous, but it was a subtle pressure saying, you're welcome here, but not as you've been. You are not welcome to come as Bedouin
join my
shepherds.
welfare state. We'll take care of you, everything you need. But that's not how it happened. They're little libertarians,
And Pharaoh may have thought that was for their own good in that if he knew that if they came and stayed shepherds, that they would be ostracized. And he saw that Joseph had managed to blend in just fine. I mean, so in his mind, he thought, well, these will be honored people. And
a whole bunch of little Josephs with the shaved head and the Egyptian clothing and the Egyptian wife.
It'll be good for them.
Having half Egyptian children, I mean, it's,
It'll make them sophisticated like us.
But the truth is, Joseph did not really assimilate into Egyptian culture the way Pharaoh thought he did. I mean, if you really look at his actions, you really look at his thought process, I don't think he really did.
Well, and he was a slave. And that's one of the ways that it's shown that Joseph never is freed from slavery. Once Joseph was sold into slavery, he was never released. He needed permission to go bury his father.
Right. When Jacob died, he had to ask permission from Pharaoh before he left the country to bury his own father. And Pharaoh could have said no. He said yes, but he could have said no. So right to the very end, he was a slave to Pharaoh.
And it's interesting in the pattern of assimilation that Jacob makes Joseph swear, don't bury me here. Even as assimilating as leaving his bones in the ground, Jacob wasn't going to do that, and Joseph wouldn't either. And Joseph tells his brothers, you get me out of here.
Yep. They didn't want to be buried in Egypt. Now, as far as we know, the 10 sons, or the 11 sons, were buried in Egypt, but Joseph, no. He made absolutely sure that Joseph's bones would be brought into the land of Canaan.
As far as we know, Joseph is
unless
the
there's
only
further,
one of the sons.
Unless there's further evidence. I think the book of Jasher might suggest that all the other 12 patriarchs were dug up and brought into Canaan, but we don't really know. It doesn't say it in Scripture.
It's not clear.
It's not clear at all.
So
that was our Torah portion. We had kind of fun talking about that and going through it. Then there's the unusual, people call it Jacob's blessings, but it's really more of a prophecy, end-time prophecy. I'm going to talk about what my sons will be doing the sons of my sons of my sons of my sons will be doing in the latter days, and it's confusing. It makes no sense to me at all.
I never realized, it never occurred to me until that was brought out today, that Jacob says these are the things that will happen to you in the last days.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought those were like prophecies of what was going to happen to them when they got into the promised land
later days.
as the tribes. Well, that means that those tribes, those predictions are still at work and have yet to be fully fulfilled.
That's where the scepter shall not depart from Judah until Shiloh comes. That comes right from there. And that's an ancient prophecy all the way back in the land of Egypt before they ever had the Exodus and came into Canaan. That's way back in history.
Apparently we ought to watch out for Benjamin and Gad and, is it Zebulun? No, Zebulun was the one with the fawns, or the deer that we couldn't figure out.
We also found that some of the translations are really different from one another.
Right.
Especially when it comes to that little blessing section. And really, was it Levi and Simeon were cursed? It said, cursed be their anger. So if anyone tells you that Jacob gave the blessing to his 12 sons, it was prophecy. It
wasn't necessarily a blessing.
Right. Some of it was blessings. Joseph was blessed.
Right.
You look at what he said about Benjamin, his beloved son Benjamin, his youngest lad. He calls him a wolf.
Yeah, it was an admiring way though. He's going to be attacked, and he's going to devour his enemies.
Yeah, a lot of it was very warlike. It was talking about victories and plunder and things like that.
Aren't the Benjaminites known to be warlike? Weren't they the soldiers in the temple? And
yep.
They were known to be like crack shot archers.
Yep, archers.
Left-handed too, weren't they?
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. Anyway.
Ironically, Benjamin means son at the right hand, so why would they be left-handed?
Left-handed archer. I don't know.
So that was the Torah portion. We thought it was pretty interesting. And I think that's pretty much our Ben and Lauren show for the evening. It's about 27 minutes in.
Yeah, it's almost 30 minutes long. It's because we had that whole spot.
Yeah, we had a little delay. So anyway, this is with the new iPad. I hope the audio is good. I hope the video is good. I notice everything's kind of zoomed in. It's just like our two heads. But I guess that works.
Yeah, it works. Ready?
Yep, and I hear Abigail saying we should show you the new iPad, but we can't. We're recording on it.
That's like saying, look at your head.
We need a mirror or something. It's not much to see. Anyway, have a wonderful night. Say good night, Lauren.
Good night, Lauren.
That never gets old. We'll see how we turn this off. Good night.